In today's episode, we're doing a produce year in review with Robert Lambert of And Now You Know. He is the CEO of one of the leading trade journals in agriculture. We're going to learn more about some of the top trends that happened in 2022 in the produce industry. Welcome to the Produce Moms. This is the podcast where I talk to various people who've made an impact on the fruit and vegetable community. There are so many stories to share that will change the way you look at fresh produce. Welcome to the show, Robert. We're really glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's an honor to be on your show.
I got to know you through And Now You Know. I subscribe to the newsletter. I get it twice a day to my inbox. I go to the website for real-time news as it relates to what's latest and breaking in the produce industry. But there's a lot more than that you do. So tell folks your founder story. How did this all begin? What is Vantage Point Media? And how did you get started in this industry?
I love what you do. And you're a big fan of people and companies in this industry. And that's where I come from, is I get to watch and see people grow and launch ideas and rise to the occasion in this industry. And, you know, the fabric of this industry just, really captures my spirit and warms my heart and keeps me invigorated to do my job day in and day out. And I feel very fortunate to have this job. Of course, we put out news daily, business daily. And then we have a magazine, a print publication, The Snack, that goes out 10 times a year. And, that's a lot of effort just to get that done. But the truth of it is I get to go out there and connect with people of this industry and try to paint them in a positive light that can hopefully encourage their business, right? Maybe even get them a purchasing order from a major retailer or food service person. And that is the underlying goal. I got into this industry. I've lived a couple different lives. I was a trader on Wall Street, and then I moved to Sacramento with my wife, and I started a land brokerage business. And then that went bust. And I partnered with my cousin, Mike Valpredo. He's from Bakersfield. I'm from Bakersfield. And we started Vantage Point Media, started out making corporate videos, then onto websites. And then I said, I'm tired of doing one-off projects. So I want to push industry media. I want to push media to the industry as a whole. I had seen on iTunes Gary Vaynerchuk and other people in his wine library, and I saw it, and I was like, "Man, I can do a better job than that." So that's how I got myself into that.
I'm sure that Gary V himself would, give you a fist bump right now for that confidence and that founder story. I love it. And I had no idea that the business started with Bakersfield roots. And for folks that are with us that don't know, I mean, tell everyone a little bit more about Bakersfield and that city and region's importance for American agriculture.
We call it a breadbasket of California. It doesn't look, for most people who've never been to California or don't know where Bakersfield is, it doesn't look anything like 90210. It's quite the opposite. If you watch the movie There Will Be Blood about oil, Bakersfield has oil and agriculture. And so it is cowboy town, and it is known for Merle Haggard and Buck Owens in the country music world. And we're very proud. It might not be the prettiest place around, but it's got wonderful people. And I'm very proud to be from there. I went to college at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and I wore my Bakersfield like a badge of honor there. Then I moved to Los Angeles, then to Manhattan, New York. And that was always first thing. I never said I'm from the Central Valley or I'm from California. I would say I'm from Bakersfield. And that would usually start a conversation right there. Yeah. So I love it. I grew up on a ranch. My grandfather, my great grandfather was imported to this country from Italy to California. It started out in Burbank, then Glendale, then Simi Valley, then Valencia. And in 1946, he hit a bumper potato crop and he went to right down the ridge route and to Mettler. And he bought land, and everybody thought he was crazy because there was no water. He had to dig 1,100 feet down to hit water table, and it's still there today. I grew up on the ranch. I was very proud of all that, but I was an only child. I was raised by a single mother. And so I was very isolated, and I hated the ranch growing up. But now I've come to appreciate it, and I love my roots. I wanted to get as far away from it as possible, but now I found myself drawn
UC Berkeley to Manhattan, but Bakersfield at heart, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I take my kids back there every year. And I let them feel the 110 degree heat and try to get them to hoe weeds for an hour in it, just so they can get a little taste of where my gumption comes from, you know? So I had a lot of family and friends in the produce industry. Even time during college, I thought that maybe I'd go back to Bakersfield and be a produce broker or whatnot. And, that didn't happen. I found trading and I loved it, but the world changed, and my wife and I got married in Manhattan and then moved to Sacramento, California. I have a lot of friends here from college, and anyway, I started this business, and I just looked at my wife and I'm like, babe, just give me 6 months. I'll have this thing in the black. It took 2.5 years, but she never looked at her watch and was like, where's my money? What's going on? She's the best partner I have. And we've been married over 18 years, coming up on 19. And we have 2 boys, 16 and 14. And, this was all, created out of that need to provide.
Yeah. It's not a hobby is what I always tell people. Like, this is the real deal. It's work. You're driving value for so many people. And at the end of the day, you're driving value for your family by building something special that is a service to others, but it's also a great source of income for you all. And really, agriculture is what taught me that. That's one of the core values and principalities of agriculture. It's I don't think a lot of people there's a lot that you read out there, especially as it relates to women not being comfortable talking about the financial side of business. And I credit all of the amazing farmers and the growers that we work with that have taught me, like, hey, that is number one. Really, it's number one in sustainability, because if you're not profitable, you're not going to be able to do all these other things. So I'm glad you brought it up, because it cannot be stated enough how we need to get more comfortable as a society, male, female alike, but especially, we know that women, it's an uncomfortable topic, and it really is so important that people get comfortable with owning the fact that, like, hey, I work not for a hobby, I work for an income and changing the lives of myself and my family and all those who work for me. So thank you for sharing that and for your candor. It's a beautiful story, Robert. So from a timeline point of view, when did you have that, aha moment where you were like, I'm going to do, what Gary Vee is to wine, I'm going to do that with produce. When did that aha moment occur? What year?
2007. Like I said, my cousin had an agent at William Morris. And even though he was working back home in Bakersfield on the family farm, he was going to LA to do things for TVG, which is horse racing, like a commentator. And then he was going out to have meetings with not A or B, but C-level production companies, production companies that would produce something for the Food Network or whatnot. And so he was going in and pitching his ideas to these companies. And that's where he brought me in. He's like, I need somebody. We need to make a demo tape and this and that. And so that's how it started. And then Tim Coe saw it, and Rex Lawrence worked for Timco as the marketer. And they saw the demo we had done from the field, and they said, we need one of those. Make us a marketing video. And with that, I went out and bought our first camera with the first part of the deposit. And then I went down, had a lot of friends in Bakersfield, and I showed the Timco rough draft to a friend named Jack Campbell, who he used to run Delano Farms, and now he runs 4 Star. And he said, hey, I need one of those and I need a website. And then so we went through this all trials and tribulation of making videos and trying to distribute the video via emails and making an attachment. And then it was, well, that doesn't work very well. Let's make a website. That way it's just you click a link and it goes to the website and it plays, and then you can record it off Google Analytics. So that's how I got into web. And then, of course, I saw Gary Vee doing these things, and I went to it was the old United Fresh. It was the last time we had United Fresh at Las Vegas, I think, in about 2009. And I pre-recorded all these, but then I had to meet the right players on my team. And I have Wick Grabitas, who's my head of sales, and I have Carlos Palacio that not a lot of people get to see, but I met both of those in the same week. And I had gone through about 4 or 5 other people before them, but they are partners in my business, and they worked out of my garage with me, and they thought they could see that we were up to something and that we were in a good industry. But one of my favorite things, I got to commend you, is because I've watched your rise, and I've seen you lead special events and talk with people, and it's amazing. And I think I share this with you, is that I am a fan of the people and companies in this industry like you are. And you do a great job of championing that. And I think that because you put so much heart and love into your product, people gravitate to it and they don't forget it. And that's why people love the Produce Mom show. And that's why you've grown so well.
When did and maybe you didn't, did you ever stop doing the day-to-day production with the video and building the websites and really trying to be more of industry journalism and trade news?
There's a couple things that happened, right? I thought, hey, we're going to just be video news and that'll be our differentiator. And I always had Rex as a friend, right? After him being my first client, he became a good friend. And he had a lot of experience. He had been, the head of sales for North America for Wonderful. He had been the head of sales for Mann Packing at the young age of 27. So he had been around and he understood how this industry worked on many levels. And he had some information that a certain SVP of produce, Jeff White, was going to be named head of Safeway's whatever. And he's like, you got to get the story out tomorrow. I'm like, we can't shoot video and edit it and get it out by tomorrow. So we had to switch to writing. And since that inflection point, we've gone from being all video to, probably 5% video and the rest being written stories. And, but we still pride ourselves on video editing. And, when you see these pre-roll commercials, these graphic design motion things, that takes editing and video editing type work. So we pride ourselves on it still. Yeah, we make up most of that in-house.
Yeah, and I guarantee you that there's people with us today that are very familiar. They're like me, and they count on those and now emails twice a day in their inbox. And I guarantee you that there's many who did not realize that this actually all started with that video production and like a media company that wasn't necessarily, news in the form of a newsletter.
I'm in Sacramento and I had to drive down, and my partner, Mike Valpredo, was on camera. I would go and film him in his garage and he'd be on a green screen. So I had to drive 4.5 hours. We'd line up the stories of the week for the whole week, and then we'd shoot them. And then I'd bring back another 4.5 hours back here. And then we'd edit that, and that would be our week's content. Right. And now, so maybe one blast, one newsletter with 5 stories in it that were video. And that was for a week. And now we have just over 60 stories a week, just on a Now. Plus we have probably 40 on Deli Market News. And of course we have 10 issues of the Snack. So it's a lot different today.
And that actually is a great segue. You are an example of someone that what's happening at all times. The breaking news. Oftentimes, the breaking news before anyone else. And that includes even other trade journals. So we look forward to coming back after the break and talking a little bit more about what some of those top stories were in 2022. So everyone stay with us. We've got Robert Lambert. We'll be right back. Happy holidays, everyone. I want to invite you to theproducemoms.com to check out our annual gift guide. We recently published our 2022 gift guide. Within this gift guide, there are 22 amazing gift ideas. These are ways to gift the gift of fruits and veggies, the gift of sustainability, wonderful inspiration for DIY gifts that won't break the bank. And speaking of budget, several of these companies have offered us exclusive discount codes. So make sure that you visit theproducemoms.com to check out our 2022 holiday gift guide. Welcome back to the Produce Moms Podcast. Lori Taylor here with Robert Lambert. What's the best thing that happened to you this week, or a small victory of the week?
My son's grades, he got 106 points on 100 test for history. He's in his junior year. And of course, he's got a younger brother who's 14. So the younger brother sees this, and the younger brother is starting to read a lot more, which I'm grateful for. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Our children are just about a couple years apart. I don't know if you know that. I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying. And nothing makes me, more, everything about my children makes me proud, but gosh, I can really relate to that. There's something special when your child has an academic achievement, and when your child takes on when your older sibling becomes the role model for the younger sibling in all the right ways. So totally can relate.
I used to be a drill sergeant too. Like, have you done your homework? Is it done? Is this right? I'm that person in the family. I'm also the disciplinarian in the family. And so I haven't had to do any of that. That's the beautiful thing. He's hitting his stride, and he sees the work ethic that he's putting in, and he sees the results, and then the younger brother's seeing it. So that's it, like, happening on its own. And that's way more important than the score on the test.
Yeah. I love that. That's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful, highlight of the week, so to say. All right, here's another one. Do you love winning, or do you hate losing? This is a question I specifically try to ask this of all the founders that come on this show.
Both. Both. I try to say that I appreciate losing because you learn more, and I feel like I've lost a lot, but I have so much. So I also feel like there's an abundance, and I try to stay in gratitude every day for it.
Yeah, and there's always growth in those losses.
Absolutely,
great lessons to be learned. But yeah, I mean, what entrepreneur is going to say, "Oh, I don't like winning"? We all love winning. Everyone loves winning.
Right. Right.
All right. And here's one. Since you're on the Produce Moms podcast and you yourself are such an icon within the industry, I want to know your favorite fruit and your favorite vegetable.
I'd like to talk about my favorite, new fruit, is the, it's not that new, but I love the Smart Bomb tomatoes by Mastronardi.
Oh yeah.
Are amazing. They're only sold here in Sacramento in Whole Foods, and I get people hooked on those all the time. And my favorite fruit, because I still count that as a vegetable.
Oh, I totally count tomatoes as a veggie. Yes.
And fruit, I love Ataulfo mangoes.
The champagne mango. It is delicious.
Champagne mango is the Cerulli brand, but it's a small, softer, and I love mangoes. I love frozen mango. I love it right now. So also, there's so many great grape varieties too this year.
What's happening with grapes is really exciting. I mean, that's a whole nother episode, of course, but it is really wonderful to see all the new, flavor forward varieties become more mainstream, and the seasonality of favorite varieties. I mean, it used to, not that long ago, cotton candy grapes were something you could only find for 4 consecutive weeks at the grocery store. And now there's, availability at different pockets year round and much larger seasons. And beyond that, there's gumdrops and all sorts of, the moon drops from, these are all grapery brands, but a lot of really amazing varieties that are happening. So great call out for that. I don't know what my favorites are. It's hard to say. So I always say my current favorite. So my current favorite vegetable, the vegetable I'm eating a ton of right now, is acorn squash. I think part of that's just seasonality. It's so delicious. It's easy to roast up. I just roast it put it in the oven, keep the skin on, olive oil, salt, pepper. And then for fruit, I don't know. Gosh, there's so many good apples right now. But I have to go with pomegranate. I absolutely love pomegranate, and such a great time of year to enjoy pomegranates. California, really good time of year to enjoy those California pomegranates. So those are my two current favorites, but check back in a couple months because they'll probably change.
I really try to go through the grocery store and explore, try new things, and have new favorites. Just like a great album that comes out, there's always one song that's stuck in my head. And then after a few weeks, it changes. I have a new favorite on that album. So, do you ever get lonely and just go to the produce aisle to visit your friends? You know what I mean?
Well, I'll tell you, I always overspend. I always break the grocery budget because I have to buy, like I shop with my friendship top of mind, not necessarily my list or my budget. And so someone can just be nice to me and say hi to me at the trade show. And then the next thing I know, I'm dropping money at the grocery store just to buy their product, even if it's not something I need. But just because I'm like, oh my gosh, their people are so nice. So yes, every single week, I'm overbuying in produce, but the good news is, there's no shortage of need for that fruit and veggies here at the Produce Moms. But yes, I am an emotional shopper when it comes to the produce department for sure. So Robert, when you were talking about the Ataulfo mangoes, it made me think of one of the trade journal headlines, and it was just this year that mangoes broke into America's top 10 with produce department items. So when we kind of kick off the discussion now of just different headlines that are top of mind to you, or headlines that people really paid attention to, that's one that came to mind that your favorite veggie triggered from, or favorite fruit triggered for me. We at the Produce Moms have supported and worked with Mango Board before. One of the things I would always tell people, and still today when we're doing any sort of mango promotion, I always like to remind people, this is the world's favorite fruit. This is the number one most popular fruit in the world, is mangoes. And, I used to always be like, America's got to get with it. We got to eat more mangoes here at home. Well, it's finally happening. We're starting to see more people and more households pull mangoes at grocery retail and, presumably consume them. So that was a headline that brought me a lot of joy, because I just know how hard the, mango.org and everyone at the Mango Board has been working to increase consumer demand and interest in the world's most popular fruit here domestically. So we'll kick off that section with my remarks on that, but definitely anything that you'd like to add in terms of headlines that when you think back on 2022, what are some things that stick out?
Well, the Albertsons Kroger merger is, of course, probably the biggest story. Grub Market's existence in our industry and their appetite for companies. The role of private equity for like Mucci this year is also big. Retirements. We have a beautiful industry that's had a lot of longevity, and it's always sad, but the retirement announcement for Mark Hilton, which is just last month, was big and kind of sad. It's bittersweet because he and his wife, Stephanie, are, definite real icons in this industry for me. And they show the graciousness that people in this industry have. That's what I love about this industry, is that if you're young and eager to learn, the elders, so to speak, or the people, the veterans, are always been eager to impart their wisdom freely. Mentorship has never been that difficult to find in this industry. And I hope that younger people hear that. And that's one of the beautiful things about the produce industry, in my opinion.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without good mentors. So
that networking ability you have, I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I can't tell you that. Do you remember that event that you did? It was pre-PMA. It was at Limonera Calavo's headquarters in Santa Paula, California. Do you remember
I
this?
remember the sustainability summit, right?
Yeah, it was a sustainability summit, and you did such an excellent, commanding job. And not only just in your love and your passion that comes out, but I look for technical details, right? And you have for a person who is trained in a produce and a wholesale and whatnot, you have a tremendous ability to end your sentences on a downbeat. And that's an educational thing that I try to, anybody who's on one of our shop talks or whatnot, I try to coach them to do that. And it's not an easy thing to always do, but you have a remarkable talent for it. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a wonderful event and gosh, worthy of a shout out, even though it didn't happen in 2022. I think a lot of what we discussed, that was, I believe in 2019 when we were all at the Limonera Ranch talking about sustainability. And a lot of what we were discussing there, a lot of those brilliant people that gathered for that gorgeous, dinner right there on the ranch. It was an opportunity for us to kind of set the tone for some of the things we're seeing today in agriculture as it relates to our industry's collective strides towards, sustainability and reaching that consumer demand and farming as sustainably and regeneratively as these growers possibly can. So thank you for calling that out. That was a great event.
Regenerative farming is a huge hot topic this year, but we are really reaching this thing about plastics, right? And I don't want to get too far off, but I mean, this is a very hot topic, and there are laws about plastics, and of course, France's use of no plastic. It's coming down the turnpike, and it is going to be really interesting. Now, one of the things that I remember that I've gone to Nikki Cascio was that I thought that PET plastics, I thought they said that PET plastics are recyclable. Now, I've talked to other people who are environmental excellent, and they say, no, it's not. And then I've been really researching and just Googling, and there are ways to do it. It's tremendously expensive, and you can turn it into some type of nylon product, but it's amazing. I don't know if you've seen, but there's this ocean rescue. There's this huge sea of plastic out in the ocean, and they're putting these ships together and they're harvesting, but only 8% of that is going to be recycled. The rest goes to landfill. And this glob of plastic in the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean, is the size of Texas. The size of Texas. It's 007 Ocean Cleanup. It's a French company. And it's a great thing. But my first thing was like, okay, wait, do they have these ginormous plastic recycling centers? I mean, what are they going to do with it? And then I find out landfill. And I'm like, so they really need to get down to how are we going to reuse these plastics? How are we going to recycle these plastics? And I don't think we're too far off.
Well, and in the berry industry, the strawberry growers from around the world and cross competitive lines, they came together. I think that was probably 2021 when this happened, but they came together for that collective effort to make sure that everyone's packaging their strawberries in either the same clamshell or a clamshell that meets those specifications so that it can be recycled here domestically. And but you're right, it's really all about reduction and reusing, and then the recycling is kind of like that tertiary effort.
There's so much more standardizing to be done in this industry that can ultimately benefit the supplier, the shipper.
As it relates to other industry trade journal headlines. So like last year at this time, leading into, the end of year, it was all about supply chain. And I think we still had a lot of supply chain headlines at the top of the year in 22. And I think that right now it's been, as it relates to the economic side of our industry, it's all about inflation.
Yes. I mean, inflation is huge cause. I mean, just the price of gas, the price of fertilizer. These things are and then transportation. Transportation has come down just a tiny bit recently, but I mean, what took 7,000 to get a truck across the country from California to New York is 15 to 20, and that's real money. And of course, in this industry, for any consumers that are out there, this is a high volume, low margin. So there's not a lot left once they start doing that. But consolidation is a major factor of this, and that's what we're seeing. The other thing I want to say, it's not a single headline, but what a successful IFPA show, right? I mean, trade shows came back finally this year. I mean, they had some last year. OPS went and SEPC went off, but it wasn't like it didn't get back. But this last IFPA in Orlando, right? And what I really measured is the retailer turnout at that event, right? And I went around to small booths, big booths, and I heard a resounding yes. We saw the people we needed to see, and so kudos to IFPA for pulling it off.
And for the folks that are with us that aren't part of the industry, IFPA is International Fresh Produce Association. And to Robert's point, it's so critical. This year being a success is critical because for the last 2 years, the annual trade event has not happened. Obviously, in 2020, it was due to COVID. No one, the global pandemic, none of these large gatherings were happening. And we're talking like, gosh, Robert, at least 30,000 people from a global audience that convene for this annual meeting and expo. And then the other 21, the event was they were planning to do it, and it was planned for New Orleans, and they had a hurricane that came through. And I think that it was questionable because COVID was starting to spike again. So there was, no one really knew it was going to happen. But then when that hurricane came through and there was damage to the convention center in New Orleans, there was no way that we could have the meeting. And this is not, we're not talking about a dinner party at home where you can just flip the location to someone else's house. We're talking about something where you've got 30,000 people, meeting rooms, hotel blocks. Like, you can't flip the location. You just have to postpone it. So you're right. And another, that's kind of also dovetailing off the big headline last year when our trade associations, and this kind of goes to your previous point of consolidation, we had a consolidation even of our trade organizations with United Fresh Produce Association and the former Produce Marketing Association merging to create the International Fresh Produce Association, also known as IFPA. So there's your backstory, folks. If you're not part of the produce industry like Robert and I are, but totally a huge headline. You're right.
And grateful that people got back out there and are doing it. So
I agree. Yeah. One thing that I've learned about this industry is super resilient industry.
Yeah, very resilient. And certain parts of it are very recession proof. Certain parts, had their best year in 2008 and 2020. But we'll see what happens next year. I remember in 2008, produce really shouldn't be very connected to the stock market, right? But we had a stock market crash in late 2008. And then by 2009, we here called that winter the nuclear winter for marketing dollars. Everybody shut their spigots off because they were afraid that people wouldn't make impulse purchases on grapes, strawberries, artichokes, whatnot. And they actually did. And went through. I had just launched, and now and within 6 months, my partners and I were looking at shutting it down. But good thing for this industry, we didn't. So
when we think about trends and what people are going to be thinking, what's top of mind for consumers, top of mind for produce industry stakeholders, I think that the leading trend is inflation. I mean, that is what's on top. That as it relates to the downstream audience, the people we're connecting with every day at the Produce Moms, the household level, it's all about right now. I mean, we're putting deliberate strategies in place to make sure that we're promoting fruits and vegetables with budget top of mind. Like how can we create beautiful recipes that use 5 ingredients or less? How can we help people understand how to use the whole produce or how to still be adventurous in the produce department and try new things? Because that's so important to our industry too. So how can we be more descriptive about, the new varieties that are out there so that people can go in and not view the spend as such a risk, when they're in that moment of trying a new product item from the produce department. So I can definitely tell you from the consumer point of view, the cost of fresh produce and food overall, the grocery bill spend, the inflation is top of mind for our audience, and we're certainly reacting accordingly at the Produce Moms.
Absolutely. I mean, I studied economics, and I usually take an economic approach to looking at things. And produce, to serve your family a nutritious and savory meal, not day in, day out, is becoming more and more difficult. But I think, the great thing about produce is we have people here that are committed to doing recipe creation, to having websites, to doing social media, and partnering with the retailers and food service providers to help encouraging people to branch out. Because and I'm sorry to always come back to profit, but the margins on chicken and wings and tenders and certainly things like that for providers can be greater than produce sometimes, and of course, or fried donuts or whatever. But we need people in North America and in the world to be eating fresh product, right? And thank God that there's a demand for that. But inflation is always a worry. I tend to be an optimist, and I think that it is starting to slow a little bit. I don't know if you've seen the stock market recently, but it's like correlating with any news. And, it's jumped and rallied significantly in the last week due to inflation slowing news. And so I'm hopeful that can continue. Gas prices for going from Orlando, it's $3.25 there. And going to California here, it's still like $5.80 a gallon. So that's one of the biggest other things that affects all our shippers, suppliers, and of course all our consumers.
Well, absolutely. And there's this convergence, and maybe the concept of grub market and their rise within our industry might kind of go in line with what I'm about to kind of share with everyone right now. But and we probably, Robert, speaking of that, we should probably explain what grub market is. I'm going to finish this thought first because I don't want to lose it. But so, Thanksgiving headlines, mainstream media, there was a lot of noise out there about it's more affordable to go out to eat than it is to actually cook a home cooked Thanksgiving meal. And, I don't know. I mean, I kind of view that as a threat to our grocery stakeholders and the folks within the supply chain where they're more focused on grocery, or if they're farming to grocery retail specs versus food service specs. There's different farming and packing styles for each of those industries that are complementary, but there also is a lot of competitive crossover. So that's something too, just as you were, kind of sharing your remarks about inflation. And I wholeheartedly believe, and our 4 pillars here at the Produce Moms, we believe fruits and vegetables are nutritious, delicious, convenient, and affordable. And even still today, even in a time of inflation, I still view fruits and vegetables as an affordable choice when you consider the grocery market overall, especially when you think about, bite for bite, what you're getting nutrition wise. However, I just had to bring that up. Like, the mainstream media was almost encouraging people to not cook at home. And we saw the grocery retailer Aldi, they did an entire marketing campaign that they were their stores, their prices in store were going to be their 2019 prices.
It's amazing. I of course hope that doesn't happen. I mean, the thought of just buying the meal and assembling it, I'm okay with. If grocery stores can provide that, but I love a traditional Thanksgiving, probably my favorite meal of the year. And so I'm just constantly hopeful. And I know that our providers, our suppliers are have huge demands when it comes to Thanksgiving, whether they're sweet potatoes or cranberries or green beans. They have celery, carrots, potatoes, all of it has significant So we will see. We won't get that data until afterwards of what really happened. But again, I'm an optimistic person, and I'm very optimistic that it's getting to a level where it can be dangerous and precarious. But I think that the produce industry will prevail there.
All right, so a couple things that we'll expand upon real quickly. Grub Market, they start in Seattle, right? But they're growing really rapidly. Do you want to give a little 411 on this company, or high level, like what is it? Because I'm sure there's people with us who are unfamiliar.
Grub Market is a company that it's kind of twofold. It has a tech area, and it also is buying shippers, suppliers, everything from distributors to providers like Sunfit. And it hasn't gone 2 months without being in the news for buying a new person. And the CEO is a man named Michael Zhu. His last name is XU, and he, I think, resides in San Francisco. But he's got a team of people, and they are constantly on the look. And then he has a lot of outside investment capital and such prominent people like Larry Fink's Blackstone Capital, which is one of the largest in the country, and that's a big blue chip investor, to have in his court. So they've been going out, and I think his plan is to try to be the Amazon of the supply side produce. But there have been several friends of mine who've been involved in this, and so far they've been very pleased with that being acquired and how it's gone through. The other interesting on the tech side is they have this, I think it's an ERP software that they're using, that they're also selling. So they have that tech underside to it. And then, of course, they're buying the businesses. And I think that they're more interested in buying businesses than they are land investment, which is always a huge equation for produce companies.
Great explanation. And with your background in Wall Street, I have to ask you to expand a little bit on the private equity too. I mean, I don't think we're going to get someone who understands the way that private equity has become. So the money's always been important, right? Like, everyone needs capital, operating capital. Everyone needs cash infusions. But talk to our listeners and our viewers a little bit more about private equity.
Well, private equity is a catch-all term for anything that isn't by a listed company, really. And then there's all these segments of private equity. So it's quite a big thing, but the existence of private equity to take ownership in produce companies hasn't been this ongoing and big for years. And so it seems like it's happening more and more where large suppliers are taking on partners. And in many cases, it's very helpful. There are several people that we know and love in this industry, and then they have generation owners. And sometimes when you get to the fourth generation, some of the siblings don't want to still be in the business, and a private equity partner really helps facilitate keeping the people who want to be in the business and remain in it. Most like a Grub Market and whatnot, to my knowledge and what I hear out there, is that they're not hands-on. They let the people who owned the business run it. There's also a wonderful group called Arable Capital with Derek Urosic. And that's the same philosophy, is they sit on the board and they monitor it, and but they let the people who have been in this industry continue to do what they do best. So that is the private equity play concerns. Most of the time, the longer term equity plays are the better ones, meaning they don't have a short time horizon to sell to another company.
Love this. Love some of your highlights and recap of 2022. There's so much to unpack as we look back. I mean, it was a another great year of strong resilience, great strides, great growth, incredible camaraderie within the industry. It was so good to be back in person at events. We're going to take another quick break, Robert, and we'll be right back. And when we come back, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about maybe some individuals that when you look back on 2022, what are some great stories from specific people or marketers within the industry? I love grocery shopping. You all know that. And there's nothing that brings a smile to my face like when I actually see a Produce Moms branded fruit or vegetable on the grocery store shelf. So today I want to remind you all that we actually have an Idaho potato line that's available at select Walmart stores nationwide. So look for the Produce Moms branded Easy Baker potatoes. They are individually wrapped, triple washed, ready to cook Idaho potatoes grown by our amazing brand partners at Wada Farms. Make sure that you look for them. You are going to love them. We have so many ideas, recipes, inspirations, even a field trip to the farm that's available on our website. All you have to do is scan the little QR code that's on your Produce Moms Easy Baker to experience it all. Thank you so much, and eat more potatoes. We're back with Robert Lambert. He is with And Now You Know, The Snack, Deli Market News, and just an all-around icon and great human. So it's wonderful to have him here with us on the Produce Moms podcast. We've had a great discussion thus far about 2022 recap. Also learned a lot more about Robert's incredible founder and entrepreneurial journey, which has been such a joy to hear. And Robert, now I'd love to kind of pick your brain or put you in the hot seat about the people. That's a common topic that you and I keep coming back to. It's the people that make this industry so special. It's why people like you are attracted to this industry. It's these incredible forces from within the industry. The people within it are amazing. And so let's call out some talented industry members that are taking produce marketing and representation to the next level. No one knows this better than you.
It's not just now. The people that I'm mentioning, they've been doing it for years, and they're just standouts. Like, start off, Nicole Tao with Duda. Nicole and I have been friends, and I've been watching her. She took on her head of marketing for Duda, which is a massive company,
Yep.
At a very young age. But, she comes from Salinas. She comes from a farming family. She just has that can-do spirit. And this is what enamors me with our industry. She's had me holding a video camera out of a helicopter, flying over a celery field in Okeechobee with like a ex-military pilot going sideways down the rows. I was literally, I have a picture of it, strapped in, leaning forward.
Oh my gosh.
I had 2 kids. All I could think about is, you're going to make it.
Right.
You're going to hold the camera still. Right. But it's not just that she gave me opportunities like that. I just watch her time and time again with social media, with having chefs in her booth, with coming up with new innovative ways for packaging, for celery, for on the goes. All of this to help produce mothers have quick, nutritious meals for their families, and I just can't say enough.
We're obviously big fans here too. I don't know if you know this. Nicole is one of my mentors' friends. Duda is actually, out of all of the partners that we have at the Produce Moms, they will forever have a special place in my heart because they were the very first company when the Produce Moms split from Indie Fruit, and I became the owner of the Produce Moms and acquired this brand and business from my former employers. Duda and Nicole herself, very first person in the industry to start working with my business when it was independent and owned by me. So for those of you that are with us, you can scroll back in the archive. She was on episode 186. Also joined in that episode by Nikki Cossio, who we brought up previously in our discussion today. Wonderful person. Duda Farm Fresh Foods, great company. To Robert's point, just absolute giant in the industry. Their brand is the Dandy brand. So when you buy Dandy brand celery, or they have the radish coins and radishes that are ready to eat. I absolutely love that product. Also great corn items that you can buy from them. And they grow so much more. But yeah, awesome grower, wonderful brand, wonderful person, Nicole. So I'm so glad that you gave her the shout out. So thank you for that.
She's just one of those people I could say, hey, we have a virtual reality concept we want to test. And she'd be game, she'd at least hear me out, you know, and I can come out from left field, and she has a lot of trust and faith. And that, again, this is part of the veterans of produce that I love. They're there for, they have a team mentality about them. And she definitely encompasses that. Also, yeah, also like I love working with Megan Gorgas Shelley. She's the marketer for Jamara Companies out of LA. Here's a marketer, young mother, produce mom for sure. She's always calling me. She's like, have you tried this? Have you thought about this idea? For my business, she's thinking about me, which is, I mean, it's just so collaborative, right? And that's what we want to, that's what I love about this industry. It lights my fire. And so the fact that we can get to work with people of this caliber, it's amazing.
I can't believe I don't know Megan as you're talking about her. I feel like I need to know her, and I love that spirit. I love hearing about women who are bold enough to make their ideas known. I don't know if you know this about my story, Robert. I sat on the idea of the Produce Moms. I own the domain, and I sat on it for months because I just didn't know how to voice an idea in the workplace. And it really wasn't until I thought I was getting fired that I unleashed the idea. So I love to hear that Megan is not only, one of these brilliant marketers, but she has that personality trait, that business fortitude to let her good ideas be known, and the confidence to share them with others. I mean, it's such a honorable trait in the world of business.
To speak up,
Yes.
and to have our voice be heard,
Yes.
right? And have the confidence to do that. We don't all, not everybody has that, or takes a little more to get them going, but it's something to,
like what you're sharing with Megan. You need someone like that to demonstrate to you, like, you can do it, So I look forward to meeting her.
Yeah.
I've certainly, I have no issue now sharing my ideas and with others, but gosh,
right.
Back in the day when this thing was just a domain sitting on my GoDaddy account, I sure struggled. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I can't wait for you to introduce me to her.
Also, people like Brianna Shales, who's the marketer for Stamelt. She's also a mother of two boys, young boys. Her previous boss was Roger Pepperell. Roger is, one of my favorite people. He retired. He would say, produce industry, it's a bunch of 60-year-old men trying to sell produce to 30-year-old women, right? And so his answer to that is Brianna Shales.
Right.
Right?
No, you're right.
And so, I mean, you see my publication. We try to praise women and honor women as best we can. I mean, if you were to come to my website, you would think that it was probably more women than men in this industry. But we, we want to celebrate women always. I have a working wife, and, there's so many great ones, but Brianna Shales, she's a great storyteller. I mean, she encapsulates marketing, and she's young and, daring, ready to try things. And of course, she has a wonderful company. Stamelt is one of the best produce companies in the industry. They're family owned. Their facility is state of the art. I'm telling you, it's next level. And that's what I love about the produce industry. You go to Salinas. I don't know how many people Salinas has, maybe 50,000. You have all these titans of produce right on top of each other. You go to Wenatchee, maybe 20,000 people, titans, huge produce companies on top of each other, competing and living together. And,
agribusiness operations that are truly feeding the world too. I mean, these are not just companies that are growing apples for their backyard. These are they are supplying the world with their apples.
And you have like women like Julia Shreve at Master Nardi.
I love Bree. She was in my United Fresh leadership class. I would consider her a peer mentor. And yes, you are spot on, Robert. Great female leader, and a great visionary for our industry, and really remarkable young talent too. So love the call out and completely agree with you.
Master Nardi does a great job of social media. They have all these wonderful stop motion animation cooking type recipe videos that they're doing. Julia Shreve is doing that there. Again, Leamington, Ontario, maybe, and Kingsville, maybe 20, 30,000 people, but you have Mucci, Master Nardi, Pure Flavor, all this hotbed of activity. And, that's the industry leader for greenhouses in our industry. So I just love going and visiting there, So I feel very fortunate to get to work with the people that I mentioned and that you mentioned because of their level of caliber in this industry,
Well, I appreciate the call outs. And it's worth mentioning that, it was lots of a female forward call out at that. You're being very humble. You yourself, Robert, deserve the shout out. I mean, my goodness, when we think about how many of us in the industry count on you and your business to educate us on the days in and days out of what's happening in produce, that's quite profound too. So thank you for all that you do. This has been the most amazing episode. I've really enjoyed looking back on 2022, learning more about you and your founder journey with, and now and all the publications that you represent. And you get opportunity for final remarks, Robert.
Nora, Melissa, Chavez, of course, I mentioned Whit Gravitas and Carlos Palacio. And then there's a myriad, there's 22 people here, team that really support and make the wheels go around here. That's what you see. And I'm grateful to have those people and be working side by side with them on a daily basis.
Oh my goodness. Well, what a great episode this has been. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the Produce Moms podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and any preferred podcast platform. Check out the Produce Moms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Special thanks to everyone involved with the Produce Moms podcast, my amazing team. Stay tuned till next time. The Produce Challenge is a tool that we've been publishing at the Produce Moms since 2013. This tool is an incredible, easy way for you to discover more varieties of fruits and vegetables in the produce department. It is a proven tool and strategy to get us all to eat more fruits and vegetables in both volume and variety. When we started the tool in 2013, the goal was to encourage everyone to go into the produce department and try them all. Find your favorite. Challenge to view this month's Produce Challenge. Remember, it's never too late to start. This tool helps you eat more fruits and vegetables, a different fruit or vegetable every day. It's also a great tool for seasonality, and you can count on us at the Produce Moms for all of the tips that you need on how to select, store, and serve each of the produce items of the day in the Produce Challenge through our social media channels. Hope to see you taking the Produce Challenge soon.